Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got about a week ago or so, I did a show that I called where I made the point that we're at an inflection point that I think will have me doing a lot, well, similar shows than I've done in the past, but a different focus. I'm going to get into that inflection point. Let me start with getting a screen share ready here. So back in 2022, I was talking a lot in this period about how oversold I was seeing the gold stocks and the lack of conviction in the gold investors, and that we were very oversold, and that I was seeing a lot of similarities that I had seen in the year 2000, just before we started a decade-long bull market. And along the way, I've seen that it's the argument to be bullish on gold is probably stronger now than it was in 2000. A lot of the argument back in 2000 was about the emergence of the China and India and the amount of gold that they would consume relative to how much demand or how much supply there was, and how there had been a long period of underinvestment to build new mines to replace the old mines. Then we went through a 10-year bull market, and now here we are, and I just see a litany of arguments to be bullish on gold. One of those is that, we've got out of control debt. Ever since the 2008 economic crisis, the countries of the world have been printing debt like it's going out of style, including the United States. And there was a period of about 14 years where you had near zero interest rates. And if you calculate that based on real interest rates, excluding the inflation, that it was less than that. And so you had an economy that was built on 14 years of near zero interest rates. And then in 2022, the Federal Reserve started to fight the inflation that they had caused because of that long period of near zero interest rates. And this caused a dramatic amount of inflation that was exacerbated by the COVID situation and how it affected supply chains. And so you had kind of a perfect storm for inflation. And inflation has blasted off, and the Federal Reserve moved from near zero interest rates all the way up to just over 5% now. And that's on the Federal Reserve rate. The banking rate is higher than that for mortgages and loans. Consumers are really stretched, and they're using their credit cards to survive, go paycheck to paycheck. Now they need the credit cards to fill that gap. And as that's happened, we're now at $1 trillion of credit card debt, and they're paying on average about 20% on that credit card debt. That's really loan shark rates. And, it harkens back to that comment. I can't remember which famous rich guy, but he once said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. And that's an argument for what can happen if you have good compounding interest. Well, the opposite happens too. When you have a deficit and you have to pay high interest on it, it works in reverse, and it's very dramatic and powerful and hard to stop. And that's what we're seeing now. The Federal Reserve has gone overboard with their interest rate increases, and they are breaking things. They've broken the housing market. They've broken the consumer on automobiles and plenty of high ticket items, and they've broken the banking industry is breaking under the weight of holding on to similar assets as the Federal Reserve, long-term bonds and also mortgage-backed securities. And so everything's hitting the fan now. And you've got these small regional banks that are under serious pressure. Some of them have failed. I think more of them will fail. And people are taking their money out of those regional banks, so there's less money for them to loan to the small businesses that create a lot of jobs. And, you know, all of these things combined, the fault can be put to a large degree on the Federal Reserve. And so another big factor is what's happening in the world trade. You've got a currency war going on between the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and there's a whole long list of other countries that want to enter that. And basically why they're doing that is they want a competitor in world trade to the US dollar. And these same countries that want that competitor are also buying a lot of gold. They've been buying a lot of gold since the 2008 economic crisis. 2022 was one of the top years ever, and 2023 looks to break that record. And so the playbook is there for people to see whether they want to pay attention to it or not. That's what I focus on. And as you can see in this chart, and here's some of the things that I talked about on a lot of my shows during this time period: a triple bottom in the price of gold. Early November, it blasted through the 50-day moving average. In early December, it went through the 200-day moving average. In January, it had a spectacular January effect, which is a good indicator that people think that 2023 is going to be a good year for the price of gold. It also went through a golden cross in January. Then in February, there was some economic or employment numbers that came out that had the currency traders acting like the Federal Reserve was going to do another, get back to dramatic increases in interest rates. Then you had a double bottom, and then gold broke out when the banking crisis hit in March. Gold broke out again through that. It traded down to between the 200-day and the 50-day, blasted above the 50-day again, and kept on going to almost 2100, just about 2100. Then there was some selling pressure of late, worries about that the Federal Reserve is going to keep raising interest rates. I think that party is over. Had an important bottom here and is now breaking out and touching the 50-day moving average. You've got gold trading well above the 200-day moving average, which is at approximately 1,840. It's now trading $129 above that 200-day moving average. And I think we're in for a breakout here that takes it well over the 50-day and keeps this bullish trend going for the 200-day bottom down there at about 1783. So you're almost a couple $100 above the bottom of the 200-day moving average. And the bottom of the 50-day moving average was at about 1,682. So you're trading at $300, just shy of $300 above the 50-day moving average bottom. So again, I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on gold, but I really think the big play now is in the stocks. They are back to the valuations that they were at down here, which is very similar to the valuations that you saw in the year 2000. So where I was talking a lot in the last 6-8 months about how gold was oversold and ready to perform much better, I now think that the big play is in the mining stocks, the gold stocks, the silver stocks, copper stocks, other metal stocks, especially those that, like gold and silver, are key assets that I think are kind of monetary assets. In the case of silver, you also have a commercial industrial use for it. And in copper, I think it's a leader in the evolution or the revolution, if you will, to move into electric vehicles. And they're going to need a lot of copper to run the electric vehicles. They're going to need a lot of copper to get the energy to the electric vehicles. The United States has a very old and ancient power grid that needs rewiring. You've also got emerging economies that are modernizing and will need a lot of copper. And then you've also got other things like there's a real push towards alternative energies. Now, however you feel about alternative energy, whether it's solar or wind or uranium, nuclear power, they're going to need a lot of copper to get that to the consumer. And they're going to need a lot of other metals as well. And all of these metals suffer from long-term underinvestment in supply to meet those demands. So my key focus is on those monetary metals such as gold and silver, as well as the metals needed for the electric car revolution. But I think the big play, the inflection point we're at, is that the stocks are here and they're either going to go one way or the other. I think that there's very little risk that they're going to go down and a lot of upside potential. So what you're going to see a lot in my shows and going forward is really the key focus will not so much be on the market moving metals, but more on the companies, the stocks, because I think that's where the real torque is for investors. And I always like to try to find bargains. And I think that's in the space, the sector, the metals mining sector. I think that's where the real torque is, and that's where the big money will be made. And so I'm out there always on the lookout for companies that I think can perform very well. One of the companies that is a pick of my reports is a company called Kenorland Minerals. And Kenorland has this exceptional project up in Quebec. I've talked with their management on past shows, and I've talked about them as a pick and why I like that for tech project so much. And look at the results that they had out on May the 31st. 138 grams of gold over 3.15 meters at their R5. And this is an epithermal vein system. And they've got one of the most talented mining companies for epithermal veins, the Summa, who had a lot of experience with one of the great epithermal veins, which is Hishikari in Japan. So look at the drill highlights, 15 meters at 14.88 grams. In that, there was 2 meters at 57 grams. The headline, 3.15 of 138 grams. There was a sub-interval of 0.4 meters at 476 grams. 3.4 meters at 43 grams. Included in that was 0.44 meters at 174 grams, 7 meters at 12 grams, 1.7 included in that was 45 grams, 1.2 at 55 grams. These are the kind of things that make for fantastic epithermal gold vein mines. And Zach Flood, who's the president and CEO of the company, stated, and I quote, "Incredible work by the team on this program and throughout the discovery of this major gold system, as our geologists have been developing a robust geological model. Renault is becoming remarkably predictable in the sense of geometry and repetition of subparallel vein structures at depth. Given our continued success in finding new veins on each drill program, I believe the odds of further discoveries in the future is great, and we will continue to grow what is already a very large high-grade gold system." End quote. I'm working on an interview for next week with Zach Flood, and I sort of talked about the evolution when I first started covering the company. They only had one vein, and now they've found blind veins and multiple veins and lots of high grade with very good continuity. And I'm going to get Zach Flood on the show to talk about that. So I'm just going to leave the Kenorland news at that. But that was a very good news piece that I think folks should pay attention to. Now I'm going to turn to my company, Advance Lithium. And we had some news out where we put out a update. Let me see if I can change this slightly. Stop share for a second. Go back to share screen. And there we go. Just move this out of the way slightly so I can get to the news section. And what we announced is that Advance identifies priority base and precious metals targets at the Bathurst Mining Camp project. Highlights of the Bathurst Mining Camp project include it's a prolific VMS mining camp, which is considered to be one of the top 3 worldwide. We have a large land package of 170 square kilometers, and it's one of the largest in the district, held by a junior explorer. Project is located within key rock packages that many of the mines and VMS occurrences in the district are located in. It includes 7 known historical VMS deposits, with some that remain open for expansion. The largest known VMS deposit on the project is the Canoe Landing Lake deposit that has a historic estimate of over 20 million tons, grading 0.64% lead, 1.82% zinc, 0.56% copper, 32 grams of silver, and 1.17 grams of gold. Now, why I'm so excited about Canoe Landing Lake is that it's believed that this is the debris flow that made its way into the sedimentary rocks, and that somewhere around there is the actual VMS system that got that mineralization in sort of like in the layers of a cake. And if the layers of the cake have that much massive sulfides, you know, it's pretty indicative that if there is a big source there, it could be very big, elephant type target. And that's not out of the realm of possibility, because there is a elephant in the Bathurst mining camp, which is the Bathurst Brunswick number 12 mine, which was one of the world's largest ever VMS mines. So we are in the land of elephants. And maybe we have one on our property. We definitely want to look for more of that. We talked about extensive soil sampling that shows distinct mineral trains with up ice cutoffs, associated nearby structures, pathfinder minerals, as well as precious and base metals that remain open for exploration. And down ice from the soil anomalies are high-grade boulders that the bedrock sources have been yet to be found. And I stated in the news release that our Bathurst Mining Camp project gives us the opportunity to follow a well-established exploration model by going into a historic mining camp that was tied up by the majors for many decades, and now applying modern exploration techniques. We can see a huge possibility for discovery and resource development. The Bathurst district has been a prolific base metal and precious metals mining camp for many decades. Wolfden, who is the company we're optioning this from, Wolfden's past work has not only documented the historic work, but also recent exploration has identified new targets across the land package. Their work enables us to hit the ground running and prepare for upcoming drilling. It is rare that a junior explorer can hold a large land package in an important mining camp that is in a mining-friendly jurisdiction such as New Brunswick. We are excited to have the opportunity to be part of this exceptional mining camp. So then we took all that data and put it on our website. I just want to go over some of that with you to show you the quality of our story in the Bathurst mining camp. So these black, this is a claim map, and it includes the geology. I would point out that we, as you can see, we have a lot of land as part of this this acquisition. We've got key rock packages and folds in the rock that are important because these green are mineral occurrences. The blue stars are mineral deposits, and the red stars are mineral deposits on our ground. So as you can see, these mineral occurrences are closely associated with the contact between key rock packages over here on this side and over here on this side. And down here, and then you've got more mineral occurrences here. There was drilling on California Lake that resulted in 3.5 meters of 579 grams of silver with 1.13 grams of gold, 3 meters of 442, 4.7 meters of 459, so very good silver occurrences there. And then down here, you've got New Landing Lake. So we've kind of broken it into 3 areas. These are what we call our Northeast claims. These are the California Lake, and this is Canoe Landing Lake. So here is the surface sampling. A couple things I would point out is that in the gold in the soils, you can see that there is some distinct mineral trains in close proximity to a boulder that was found, and that boulder ran 20% zinc, 4.2% lead, 0.33% copper, 286 grams of silver, and 0.89 grams of gold. So then you start asking the question, well, where is the bedrock source of that? And so as you can see, there's a series of gold occurrences in the soils out in here. Now, bear in mind that the grid that they did is quite a bit larger in surface sampling, but these were the ones that were tested only for gold, okay? Down here by the Armstrong D and Armstrong E deposits, there's now these are up ice, so they likely didn't come from this. The ice direction is from the west to the east. So when you get gold in the soil on this side, it's up ice. And again, you're on the other side of where these known deposits are. Then you've got an anomaly down here. Over here, you've got this anomaly for gold. This in the soils near the Bear Creek where they drilled at Bear Creek, 5.9 meters of 354 grams of silver and 0.4 grams of gold. But again, this is up ice from that. So yes, these could come from that, and these could come from that, but you could also fit something in this area that is up ice that couldn't be explained by those two. Then you start seeing a gold anomaly here as well. So keep these in mind because you're going to see a bigger picture evolve as we go through the other soil sampling results. And here you have the silver. And again, I would point out that you have coincident silver and gold occurrences all in this area. Then here, you've got these silver occurrences that likely cannot come from there because they're too far north. Yes, these ones could, but what's in the middle here probably can't. And the same can be said with this. This stuff up here is up ice from this Bear Creek deposit. And same thing with these Bear Creek South, you're up ice. So either these are part of this of a bigger system or there's another system out there. This anomaly here keeps showing up quite interesting because you've got up here a nice gold anomaly and a coincident silver anomaly. Bear Creek South has a bunch of silver, B has a nice silver hits, And same thing down here where you see this gold occurrence. You're also seeing a silver anomaly and another anomaly over here, and you've got the cutoffs up ice. So something in here is probably creating this, and something over here is probably creating that. That's the way you look at mineral trains. Finding the cutoff is very important. So now we look at copper, and again, the copper is starting to come out quite nicely in association with, coincident with the gold and the silver. Same thing over here at Bear Creek South A and at Bear Creek and north of Bear Creek. You're starting to see a very interesting anomaly here and a cutoff here. Then you got another spike there. And this area over here keeps showing up, whether you're looking at silver, gold, these areas all keep standing up, whichever metal you look at. And now you start looking at zinc. And zinc has even more coincident and sitting right on top of where you're finding gold, silver, and copper. Same thing over here, same thing over here, same thing over here, same thing over here and here. So you've got anomalies that are kicking out all of the key metals that you want to find in a VMS. Here's your lead. Again, big anomalies showing up here. Where did that massive, those minerals in the massive sulfide come from? And there's plenty of targets. Now, here is arsenic, which is an important pathfinder for gold. And here you start to see beautiful geochemical anomalies and cutoffs to those geochemical anomalies. Big cutoff here and here and here and here. Again, it looks like you've got two key anomalies here in this Bear Creek South. You're getting a lot, and Armstrong A, you're getting a lot of arsenic in the soils there. Here's the antimony, another important indicator. And why the arsenic and the antimony is quite exciting. Again, look at these anomalies. They're all standing up no matter what metal or pathfinder mineral you're looking at. And what's really exciting about this is that a lot of your VMS deposits in the Bathurst mining camp are zinc rich, and they don't have a lot of antimony or arsenic. Whereas these we've got a lot of arsenic and antimony. So we think that could be a more copper and gold rich VMS system that could be associated to. This isn't the only boulder. There's off this map way over here. You're getting more boulders even off of our property, but the source, the hard rock or the has not shown up where the bedrock is. So now I've done another thing here that I think is really important. And I'm going to, first I'm going to get it up on my screen. And then I'm going to, let's see here, just give me a second. We'll start with Brunswick 12. I'll close this off. All righty. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to show you some very interesting things that are starting to develop. I'm just preparing my Google Earth here, so just give me a second. I'll have it all ready because this really tells. So when you're looking at exploration and you're seeing these distinct mineral trains that I showed you before, and you're seeing all the right minerals that are associated with your boulders in the area, then you want to start looking, well, where are the key structures that could be associated with all that mineralization you're seeing in the surface sampling. And I'm just going to bear with me 1 second because I really think that this is an important part of our story that that not a lot of people are paying attention to, and I think it should be paid attention to. So just bear with me. I'm almost there, folks. Sorry for this delay. I thought I had it all ready for you, but yeah, I didn't quite have it all ready for you. But nonetheless, I got some important stuff to show you here in about 1 second. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go off stop my screen share and start it again and bring up Google Earth. Okay, so bear in mind where we had found all of those silver occurrences and the copper and other things is right up in this area where you see some important structures developing. And so all of our anomalies are in this area for gold, silver, copper, down in here, over here, up in here. And you can look at those maps, but here's the big picture that I think is quite tremendous. If you follow this structure down here, and then it bends over, and then another structure comes in from this side, and there's an intersection there, and it's at that intersection and up in here where we're getting a lot of these spikes in the gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, antimony, arsenic, and actually right in this area, this is where the boulder was found. And again, so in close proximity to that boulder, you've got gold coming in right around here, all in here. So there are some key structures that are also associated with where we are seeing all that mineralization in the surface sampling. So I think we've got a fantastic target there. I'm working on some developments for our other key projects, which are in Mexico for lithium and also for gold and silver near the Las Chispas mine. But this was the news that I wanted to talk about today and give you some more insights into what I'm seeing. So now we'll move on to Dynasty Gold. On May the 24th, Dynasty announced that they've begun their 2023 Thundercloud exploration. And this is to follow up on the drilling that they announced earlier this year that included 3 meters of 65 grams of gold, 1.5 meters of 115 grams of gold, 51 meters of 11 grams of gold. Included in that was 3 meters of 151 grams of gold. The highlight was 1.5 meters of 246 grams per ton of gold. Another hole hit 1.5 meters of 25 grams. And all of those hits are in less than 200 meters from the surface. Then they also announced that they were getting they got some results back from Tech Resources that had this project before. And what they found in that historical work is that gold grades between 20 grams to 106 grams in a number of core holes that require additional drilling. The thing that I know they're working on right now is they're taking all of their work and the historical work, and they're putting it in together into a leapfrog model that will not only show the continuity of what they've been hitting, but that they have an upper zone with good continuity across 4 holes that extends for about 100 and some meters. And then just below that in a lower zone, they got another hit of 65 grams over 1.5 meters. So it looks like they've got an orogenic gold system with stacked zones and that are parallel. So it looks like they could have more, and that to keep following those down and deeper, and there's a potential that they could come together as you get deeper, which is a very common thing in orogenic gold systems and a very exciting thing. Ivy Chong, who's the president and CEO, stated, "We are encouraged by our 2022 remarkable drill results. These are the deepest holes that we drilled into the orogenic gold system at Thunder Cloud. Recently, we completed a significant private placement with a lead order from Rob McEwen. He did 1.2 million. Now we are well funded to further test the gold system, to follow up on last year's drilling, to expand on the system at depth and test for potential of stacked zones of high-grade gold. Final preparation is underway for our 2023 drill program that will start soon. So that's about to start at any point now. And I'm very bullish on this project. I think that they've got a very exciting orogenic gold system. One thing I look for in these is continuity. They've got that. They've got the high-grade mineralization, including bonanza grades. But I think something that not a lot of people are aware of is that they didn't find any visible gold in that with those numbers. So that means that gold was found in fine-grained gold in a orogenic gold system. And as you follow them deeper, and they tend to go very, very deep, thousands of meters deep, as you follow them deeper, you get closer to the heat engine, and then you get the coarse gold. And I think that lies in front of them. And I'm very excited about that prospect. All righty. So now I'm going to switch over to HighGold. This is another pick that I've talked about before. They're getting ready to start their drilling in Alaska, but they're also spinning out their Onyx Gold asset into a new company that they've received the approval, and they also announced that they're doing an upsized $7 million financing. So you're going to have HighGold focused in Alaska and their other assets in Onyx Gold, which will have a $7 million financing done before it goes public. So I'm going to be following Onyx because I like the ground that is being spun out into Onyx. But I'm also very bullish on their on HighGold's key asset in Alaska, which is called the Johnson Tract project. They've found a lot of high-grade gold. They've got a resource of over 1 million ounces of gold at a grade right around 10 grams per ton of gold. These are not easy to find, especially when they have good metallurgical story as well, which they do. So I think they've got at Johnson Tract in the resource. I think they have a future 2 to 5 million ounce gold mine that will be developed by a much bigger company. So I consider HighGold a takeover target. They talk a little bit about what the Onyx story is, the current financing, and the very high quality group of projects that will be going into that. So I'm very bullish on HighGold, and I will be bullish on their newly formed Onyx Gold that's being spun out from HighGold. This is a new company that I just came across about 4 or 5 days ago. The company's called Goldflare Exploration. Their stock symbol on the venture exchange is GOFL. Look at this headline: Goldflare obtains 15 grams of gold over 7 meters on their Goldfields project. The property is located 35 kilometers from Rouyn-Noranda, Quebec. The Goldfields property contains a high density of historic drilled gold showings hosted along the extension of the Porcupine-Dester Fault. HighGold is currently in the pit development of the Fayole zone, located approximately 700 meters east of Goldflare's drill program. They announced that 15 grammer over 7 meters, but it included an interval of 103 grams over a meter. And you look at some of the other highlights. Mineralization takes the form of free gold, so that you can get out of there by a very easy process. Hosted an altered and fractured alkaline intrusion. The drilled interval is located immediately below the overburden cover at a vertical depth of approximately 20 meters. So it's right at the surface. It is located close to the southwestern limit of the historical drill coverage in the central to the claim. The spatial position of the discovery leads us to reconsider the geological model and to extend exploration zone both laterally and in depth along a north-south axis. President and CEO Ghislaine Morin mentioned, and I quote, "Exceptional grade is always a surprise for the team. This is the highest grade result documented to date on the property. We are analyzing whether this type of result could be a part of a particular enrichment axis in the known area. If the hypothesis is true, we could benefit from this factor, which would increase the average grade of gold fields. The next step for Goldflare will be to rework the interpretation and plan a new round of drilling." Goldflare presents here the complete results of drills AIG 20. There's a series of them. As you can see, here's where the results come from. Pending results, hits here, partial results there. So they've got a lot more results coming out and a lot more drilling to do. They talk in depth about these various different holes. Look at some of this visible gold here in the millimetric grains. So you're not looking at coarse gold here, but it's definitely batching up there in some key differences in the rock units that you're getting that in. And then they give you some more key information about this drilling that they're doing. Yeah, this is a very small valuation company, but they're getting some very exciting results. And I'm going to work towards getting an interview with them. I think that this is one you should do your homework on. I'm starting to do my homework on it based on these results that I'm seeing. And I really think they've got something serious here that is worth taking a very close look at. So I'm going to be inviting their management on a show. Now I'm going to talk about, these were companies that were in the news recently. Now I'm going to talk about some of my sponsors. HighGold is what I consider to be a cornerstone holding for investors that want exposure to gold. I had an interview just a few days ago with Ewan Downey, who's the president and CEO, and I invite you to go to my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com to check that interview out. And we talked about why Ewan is so bullish on gold, and then we talked about their various different assets. I'm going to invite you to go listen to that because, and other videos that I've done, because HighGold is a sponsor of my shows, and I've done a lot of talking about their key assets. But this headline, I think a lot of people are not paying attention to, and they should. They announced that they're set to join the Russell 3000 index and the Russell microcap indexes. And why this is important is that they will have tens of millions of share buying to become part of these indexes. Okay, and so you look at their average volume, and you start throwing in a 30 million additional shares of buying for them to be part of the index. And I think that that's going to unlock a lot of shareholder value as well. And that's set to happen in about 3 weeks from now. The second thing that it'll bring in is that you get institutions that want exposure to companies that are in these kind of indexes. Ewan and I, when we had this interview a few days ago, we talked about how that can have a big effect on the valuation of the company. I think that that's exactly what's going to happen, because as Ewan pointed out, there's very few companies in the mining sector that are listed in the American markets. And as more generalist investors come into the space, they're going to look for stocks that are in America. American generals are going to look for stocks that are listed on a U.S. market. In this case, they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Then they're going to look at companies that are in an index. Then they're going to look at companies that are focused in the United States. That's where all of i-80 Gold's projects are. And then they're going to want companies that are in Nevada. And there's very few companies that tick all of those boxes. And so I think that these things combined, most importantly, the quality of their Granite Creek project, their McCoy Cove project, and their Ruby Hill project, and the Bonanza grade CRD that they found there, and the Carlin deposits that they found on that same project. It's a phenomenal project that I think is going to be a true money maker. So there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on i-80 Gold. And again, to do your homework, go to my YouTube channel or my Substack and check out some of those interviews that I've done with Ewan Downey. Okay, so another sponsor is a little company called Masivo Silver Corp. Now, they're also in Nevada, and what they have is a project that had historical mining back in the around World War II, and then it stopped, and then it was in fractionalized, like a patchwork of claims held by various different parties. These guys have gone in there, they've consolidated that into one package owned by one company, and part of their team is a guy named Brian Brewer. Now, Brian was part of the Mine Finders team that had tremendous success finding a mine and then being taken over, and a big winner for their investors. And Brian is really, in fact, I did an interview not too long ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, that also you can find on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And he really made me more aware of just how big the system could be at this project. And when you get those kind of grades that were just off the charts, what was mined back in the around World War II, and you start finding that you can expand on that, which you should be able to, because those things don't happen because of insignificant mineralizing systems. They usually come from big and powerful, long-lived mineralizing systems. And I think that's exactly what they have in Nevada, but they're not getting a lot of love in the market. I think they should be, and I think you should check them out. And they're doing a private placement. They're going to be raising money to get back in there and drill some more. And I'm quite optimistic about the success that they'll have. McEwen Mining is not a sponsor of my shows, but I've had the pleasure of having Rob McEwen on several past shows, and I really think that this is a tremendously undervalued company. Back on May the 23rd, they announced that they've reduced their debt by 39%. Rob is in a mission to cut the debt from this company, and they're doing that. And they've got quite a combination of assets. They're a gold producing company, and they also have a tremendous copper project in Argentina that looks quite spectacular. I think it's going to be a future mine, and McEwen Mining owns 52% of that. Rob McEwen himself owns about 14%. Rio Tinto's technology arm called Nuton owns about 14%, and one of the largest car manufacturers in the world owns about 14%. This is one of the top 10 undeveloped copper projects in the world. I think it comes in at number 9, and it's expected to have a long mine life of over 3 decades. And be one of the lowest cost quartile as well. So that's a hell of an opportunity that I think a lot of major mining companies going to like, is the combination of a big long life mine that has low costs. We need a lot more copper in this world, and we don't have enough new mines being developed to feed the demand that's coming from the electrification of automobiles and the modernization of the world. And we need more copper discoveries, and we need more copper mines. And the majors understand that. The car manufacturers are understanding that. And McEwen Copper has two of them, a major mining company, a division of a major mining company. And what makes that equally as exciting is that this Newton has new leaching technology that they believe will increase or decrease the amount of time it takes to get the copper out of the rock, and also to increase the recovery. And they did two big investments in the company. One was the first one got them to be able to analyze what if their technology can work. The second one happened after they've been analyzing that. So I think it sends a clear message that they think that their technology will help decrease the amount of time it takes to get the copper out of the rock, and increase how much copper you get out of the rock. So they've done two important investments. And then you've got this car manufacturer, the fourth largest car manufacturer in the world, is also a big shareholder in McEwen Copper, as is McEwen Mining, which owns 52%. Their stock is quite undervalued, I think, because of a combination of, I think that 52% interest in the Los Azules mine is worth a lot more than their current valuation. But they're also turning around the operations at their gold mining mines, at their gold mines. And, you know, and they're increasing the grade, they're bringing down the cost. And then you've got an environment where I think you're going to have gold going a lot higher. So that's going to help the bottom line. So I think McEwen Mining has a lot of great things going for it, and it's cheap. And I think it shouldn't be so cheap. And I don't think it will be cheap for a lot longer. Orogen Royalties is a royalty, is the only royalty company that I follow in my reports. I do follow others, but what separates Orogen Royalties from the others is that Orogen is a kind of a hybrid. They were a prospect generator, and they would go out and stake their own ground to then hopefully find a mine to create where they would get a royalty from it. They've been successful in doing that once with Ermitaño, which is one of First Majestic's best performing gold mines, and that's in Mexico, and it's generating a lot of free cash flow for them. And then they also have a 1% royalty. That's a 2% royalty on Ermitaño. Then they've also got a 1% royalty on a joint venture with AngloGold Ashanti in Nevada. And that one's looking pretty outstanding as well. Anglo had put out their first maiden resource on that project, and it's just one of two deposits. And the maiden resource was 3.4 million ounces of gold in an oxide deposit. And that looks like it's going to be a for sure future mine. And then they've also got another part called, I think it's called Merlin. Don't quote me on that, but it also looks quite spectacular on the same project in the same system as the Silicon project here. I think it will tell us right here what I hate when I forget the names of deposits, but there's the Silicon and Merlin. I did get it right. And then you can see that they have a whole bunch of other royalties. They got project generation projects. So this company is, it's kind of reminds me of the early days of something like the big royalty company of the 1990s that was one of the best performing gold stocks in the business, following the being led by Pierre Lassonde. And what Pierre says, that the royalty model is a tremendous business model. You sit back and you collect cash, and you have a low overhead because you don't need a lot of people to run a royalty company. So that's why I follow Orogen Royalties. I like them a lot, and I think you should do your homework on that. Puma Exploration is a new company that I started probably a couple of weeks ago. I wrote an article that you can find on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And they've got this Williamsbrook gold project in the western part of the Bathurst mining camp that I think is quite spectacular. Some of the things that really stand out to me is this. Look at these zones of high grade that are all pointing in the same direction. They've got excellent continuity. And I think I think that this looks a lot to me like a orogenic gold system. It doesn't have the looks of an epithermal gold system, which are the two suspects when you get things like 51 grams of gold over 1.85 meters, or 46.954 grams of gold over 3.85 meters. And something else that's important is that you can hardly see the visible gold, but it's circled in red here. And because it's hard to see, that tells you that it's in the fine grain portion of what I think is an orogenic gold system. And so when you start following those orogenic gold systems deeper, you get higher and higher grade because you're getting closer to the heat engine that brought all of this high grade gold to surface in the fine grain portion. And so as you get closer to the heat engine, you get more and more coarse gold. But what I'm seeing here is a series of stacked zones that are parallel and all pointing in the same direction. So the down dip extensions of these is a very exciting story, and they talk about how they're going to go after that. I'm very excited about this Lynx gold zone, but that's not the only zone of importance, because not too far from Lynx, you've got other zones that look quite interesting as well, and maybe they're all connected. You can actually see evidence of that in the geophysics, and that's sort of the Lynx gold zone story. But then there's other parts of this, these zones that I think this map up here, sorry, just fiddling around in the maps here, but they've got another, this is the Lynx zone right here. And then they've got, I believe what they call this one is, it's got cat names like Puma and Cougar, and over here is I think names failing me right now, but yeah, they've got the Lynx zone, they got the Cougar zone, they've got the Panthera zone, and all of these things seem to be associated. And so they got a lot more work to do at Lynx, where they've got all these surface occurrences sitting right on a big geophysical anomaly that seems to point towards a contact between two rock packages, and they've only touched a small portion of this, and they got more to do here, more to do here. This is interesting because you've got a couple of faults that come together here where you're getting all of this gold mineralization. You've got another interesting geophysical anomaly here. This one's really exciting because you've got a lot of gold. I mean, the basic story here is look at all the gold all throughout this big land package. I think it's 20 some square kilometers, and you've got gold everywhere. This is a big gold system. They're getting their handle on how to attack that, and I think they're going to do a real good job of doing that. The next company is SilverCrest. This is a pick of mine. Why I like SilverCrest is they just put out their first quarterly report of full commercial production. And some of the highlights from that are that their cost of producing an ounce of silver is about $11.45 an ounce. At over $20 an ounce, they're selling it for, you've got a big margin in there. And because this is a low cost, high grade system, and they're producing a lot of ounces, they were able to reduce their debt or that they had to incur in order to bring it into production. They've now reduced that 95%. Okay. And they built up cash. Well, they were paying down debt. And this is only the first quarter of full commercial production. I think that this company has a tremendous future ahead of it for investors that want access to a gold and silver mine, and they don't want as much risk. This is a perfect candidate for them. I think it's got a very bright future. When you kick off that kind of free cash flow, you know, you can do a lot of great things with that free cash flow. You can pay dividends, you can buy back stock, you can acquire other assets, you can develop other assets. This is a hell of an opportunity, and I think SilverCrest is got a great story, and I think it's only going to get better because they're just now getting into 1 quarter of full commercial production. And the numbers look spectacular. These are the kind of companies that I think will get a significant premium in their valuation. Sokoman Minerals is a company that is a sponsor. My favorite project that they have is their gold project called Moosehead. It's an orogenic gold system. They're starting to hit bonanza grades. I think they're getting an understanding of how that system is acting at depth. These can be complex systems because you're not looking for big deposits. You're looking for small deposits of very high grade that are low cost to produce and big cash making machines. I think that that's the direction Moosehead is going in. But not too long ago, they had news out about they've got this lithium project that I think could be an exceptional project as well. And collectively, these two assets are being valued at what I think is a fraction of what they should be valued at. It's hard enough to find an orogenic gold system, and then to find one that has bonanza grades in it. And as you get into the deepest holes, you're hitting your best grades. You just want to keep on following that system deeper, and then you get into more coarse gold, higher grade gold, you know, and that's the direction I think that the Moosehead project's going in. But then they've also got this lithium project, and we need more lithium deposits in the world that turn into mines for the electric vehicle revolution. There's just not enough of it being produced to feed the demand that's coming from the electric vehicle revolution. This is a hard rock project, and hard rock projects in Canada are getting a lot more attention because Australia became the #1 producer of lithium in the world because of their hard rock deposits. And then people started realizing, well, the age of the rocks in Australia are the same thing as in Canada. And there's a lot of potential for lithium deposits that could be like the Australian mines. And so now there's a lot more attention on lithium in Canada. And I think that this one could be one of those ones that could be a future mine. And I like where the grade, I like the size potential that it's showing. And again, I think if you look at the Moosehead project for gold and this lithium project, that both of those assets are very undervalued in the current valuation of the company. And just wait for more news. I think you're going to see news from both of those projects that could knock your socks off. All right, Summa Silver is a sponsor that came on board I would say about 2 months ago, and month and a half, 2 months ago. And they've got 2 great projects. One is their Mogollon project in Mexico. Just look at the headline. Summa Silver drills 23 meters of 433 grams per ton of silver equivalent, including 1.2 meters at 2,686 grams of silver equivalent at their high-grade silver gold Mogollon project. Now, as they're waiting for the permits to start their drilling again, they also announced that they're starting their drilling on their Hughes high-grade silver project in Nevada. And that one could start generating a lot of news, and I think it will generate a lot of good news because they have done some drilling that has shown spectacular results. What they're showing you here is some of their spring targets, these geophysical anomalies that look quite compelling. And this ruby zone has a drill hole in it that returns some excellent numbers. You got sapphire over here, diamond, topaz, ruby. I like the use of all of these gems. Here is where they hit some of that high grade, 0.5 meter of 1,400 grams of silver, 2 meters of 469, right on the edge of a big geophysical anomaly that's 1.4 kilometers that they're going to get after drilling. Look at some of this beautiful calcite cemented polymetallic breccia. These textures and alteration minerals are interpreted to represent the upper expression of a prospective epithermal vein system at depth. These are things you want to know. These textures and alteration minerals are suggesting a long-lived system. And that's the kind of thing that results in the excellent gold grades in your drilling and also what makes for epithermal silver and gold mines. So stay tuned for more drilling news out of the Hughes project in Tonopah, Nevada, and then getting back to Mogollon in a couple months. So they're going to have a great news flow going forward, and I think you should do your homework on Summa Silver, SSVR, on the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture, and on the OTCQX market, it's SSVRF. Okay, another member of my sponsorship program is Timberline Resources. Timberline is in the Eureka camp, which is in close proximity to I-80 Gold, where I-80 Gold is making tremendous bonanza grade discoveries of a bonanza CRD with a Carlin gold deposit right beside it. It's just a tremendous project. These guys have some ground right beside I-80 Gold that had historical CRD mining, and they've with these bonanza grades and an overprint of Carlin gold, and they're getting that's called the New York Canyon project, and it will be the first one they drill. They've also got a resource in the area. Right beside that resource is a big geophysical anomaly. All the rock packages are going in that direction of that anomaly, and the cracks in the earth are also pointing in that direction. And it looks like that anomaly is pointing towards the source of all of the mineralization that they have in their resource. It looks like quite a spectacular project as well. So New York Canyon, followed by drilling around the resource, and think that this company is going to have a lot of news to talk about in the not too distant future. Had them on as a good sponsor for a long time now, and go to my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com, and you'll find the interviews that I've done with them there. Alrighty, the final company, and not because of any other reason that I've been going through my sponsors based on alphabet, and Walker River is the W, but they've got a historic high grade in Nevada's next frontier, which is in the Walker Lane trend on western Nevada, and it's quite a. The Little Pond Canyon project is very impressive to me. It's got a wide area on the side of a mountain where you've got widespread gold mineralization, either in historical mining or in drilling that Walker River Resources has done. And the idea or potential that it could be a 2 to 5 million or more gold target is pretty compelling in the drilling that they've done in the historical mining. But then if you look at the indicators of why that it could be much bigger, is you look at the faulting, the cracks in the earth that go through that mountain are also associated with this gold mineralization. So these faults or cracks in the earth are very deep, crustal cracks, and it's how the gold makes its way up from deeper towards the surface. And so they've got this network of faulting that all comes down to a cross-cutting fault. And then on the other side is another mountain with the same faults going right over onto the other side. So on a structural sense, it tells you that you've got gold mineralization and the cracks that are the plumbing system for that gold mineralization to make its way to surface. Now, when the metals bearing fluids make their way to surface, they chemically alter the country rock when they come into contact. And you can look at the map, the Google Earth image, and you can see the alteration sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's all over the side of this mountain. So you've got all the indications there of you've got widespread gold mineralization from up to bonanza grades, lots of high grade. So you've got a powerful gold mineralizing system there. You've got the conduit of how that gold made its way to the surface through these faults that are the cracks that the gold mineralizing fluids make their way up. Then you got this huge area of alteration that tells you that that's also a big system. So all of those things combined, I don't throw around 2 to 5 million ounce target comments very often, unless there's a lot of evidence that that's what they're looking at. And I think that's exactly what Walker River Resources is looking at. But they've got a very cheap valuation, and I think they've got the kind of project that would attract major mining companies. It wouldn't surprise me if some major mining companies are sniffing around at this company and trying to get involved some way through a joint venture or possibly a financing, and I can't blame them. These kind of projects in Nevada don't come along very often. I think they've got a really good one and a really cheap valuation. Alrighty, this show went a little longer than I expected, but I wanted to talk about a bunch of companies. So there you go. I'm going to put the names of the companies in the comments below, so it'll help you to find out which companies I talked about and when I talked about them in the show. On that note, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors. My shows are for information purposes only. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.